A couple of weeks ago, I was making my way through my typical fall Sunday routine, which typically includes a full and wonderful morning of teaching and learning here at our Wendy and Avron Fogelman Religious School, followed by usually grabbing some lunch and enjoying some quality couch time watching one of my favorite sports teams, the Tennessee Titans. Now, for those of you who may not follow NFL football very closely, I know there are many here who are devout followers of that great other religious tradition here in the southern United States, the great synagogue of college football. So for those who don't know, the Tennessee Titans are not a good football team. They currently stand at 0-4 after receiving the first overall pick in the NFL draft this past spring as a reward for their 3-14 record last season. And as I was sitting there watching my dreadful team, wondering why I continue to do this to myself, my wonderful fiance asked me a very profound question. Is it hard to root for a team that's so bad all the time? My initial reaction was, of course, an apologetic one, pointing out that there was indeed a time in recent history, albeit brief, when the Tennessee Titans were actually a good team. But then all I could do was laugh and say simply, yeah, it's not very fun, but I love them anyway. I'm not sure how many sports fans we have here this evening, but I think it's safe to say that rooting for a team that is in this way perennially awful is not only evidence of immense loyalty, but it's also a deep lesson in hope. If you're anything like me or my group of friends from back home, you are all too familiar with the text threads about our favorite teams during the off season with phrases like, we might actually be pretty good this year, or insert player's name here could really be the difference. This is what sports fans do. We hope, even when we are given very little reason for it. We are, to use an expression from the prophet Zechariah, Asirei Tikva, prisoners of hope. This expression from our sacred text has often been used as actually one of the names of the Jewish people, prisoners of hope. And as Rabbi Sternberg addressed so beautifully in her sermon just yesterday morning, hope is the Jewish response to despair and brokenness. And as we gather on this Shabbat just a day later, I cannot help but see so much hope illuminating our community. Seeing the genuine excitement radiating from so many of our young singers and musicians in the Tempo music program guided by Emily Groff Heilborn just yesterday gave me hope. Hearing the congregation join together in song and prayer, just as all of you have done this evening and throughout these high holy days, that gives me hope. And concluding Yom Kippur with Havdalah and the final shofar blast with members of this community ranging in age from 5 to 85 years old, all of this gives me hope. And yes, I can still find glimmers of hope in my Tennessee Titans. In an age when we think that reason rules, hope is that thing that is irrational. It cares not for the reality that is, but envisions the reality that could be. And just today, we received yet another glimmer of hope, with the statement from Hamas indicating their willingness to accept the 20-point plan presented by President Trump and supported by Prime Minister Netanyahu. Yes, there will still be negotiations and challenges to overcome before this plan becomes a reality, but it is hope nonetheless, a culmination of the courageous and limitless hope that has kept the families of the hostages from falling into despair and continuing to advocate for the return of their loved ones. It is them and so many in Israeli society who have protested, and demonstrated tirelessly over these past months who give me hope today. Hope is also, I think, something that might help guide our own conversations here in the United States regarding anti-Semitism and specifically the debate surrounding terms like anti-Zionism and Zionism. In recent weeks, I've had difficult but meaningful conversations with friends who shudder at the term Zionism or Zionist. On its face, this is concerning for many of us. But once we dove deeper into the conversation, we realized that the way that I defined those terms was very different from how some of my friends might define them. So when they balked at the label of Zionist, the Zionism they opposed was in fact not accurate to the Zionism I care for and believe in so deeply. For them, being a Zionist likely meant blindly supporting the Israeli government in all its iterations and justifying its actions without question. Some even think that being a Zionist means being an expansionist, hoping that one day Israel will conquer more and more land to set up an empire in not just our people's ancient homeland, but in the wider Middle East. This is truly what many people believe Zionism is. And that is not my Zionism. Nor is it, I firmly believe, the Zionism of the vast majority of Jews here and in Israel. And I realized over this past Yom Kippur that these conversations are a perfect case study of what Rabbi Greenstein spoke so powerfully about during his Kol Nidre sermon. It is comparing the best of our particular religious or political camp with the worst of the opposing side. In the end, I understood that while we may be using the same words, we were actually not in conversation with one another, that we weren't even speaking the same language. Some may remember that in January of 2024, I taught a 3-week course exploring the historical development of modern-day Zionism called If You Will It. And what we explored in that class is that this issue of definitions is not new at all to Jewish history, and specifically the history of the state of Israel. There were, in fact, many versions of Zionism, some more grounded in secular nationalism, while others more grounded in religious language. These many ideas of what a Jewish state could and should look like eventually culminated in our state of Israel, which has, of course, grown and changed and been shaped by its journey through history. Indeed, were we to apply the multiverse theory or a multiverse model of thinking, there may, in fact, be many different versions of potential Jewish states that could have been different depending upon different circumstances. But in our reality, in our timeline, this is the Jewish state that we have. And it has so much beauty and so many merits. But as is the case when so many dreams become reality, it is indeed not perfect. So when we hear people claim to be anti-Zionist, there are multiple ways we might understand it. It could be that they oppose the existence of a Jewish state in our ancient homeland in general. From there, it is very difficult to have a real, genuine, and respectful conversation, since they reject at face value our claim to self-determination. Not to mention that they refuse to acknowledge that a Jewish state does indeed exist and cannot simply disappear without any assurances of security or dignity for those who live within it. The other way we might understand the word anti-Zionist is that these people are opposed to this current Israeli government and its actions. This, I believe, can be an opening for real conversation. Because while I reject that label, I can respect and even agree with its definition. I, too, firmly oppose many of the figures that comprise this current government. And I oppose them not in spite of my Zionism, but because of it. Being a Zionist to me means holding fast to the hope and the dream of what a Jewish state could and should be, not what it may be right now in terms of its government. To be a Zionist is to hold fast to hope and to dare to dream of what is possible. To put it simply, to be a Zionist is very much similar to being a Tennessee Titans fan. Bear with me. I may not agree or feel a great deal of confidence in the current management and coaching staff, but yet I still support the team. I still maintain hope not only for fear of claims of being a bandwagon fan, but because despite all odds, there still is reason to hope. I support the players who work hard to bring the team success. I'm amazed by the dedication of a fan base that continues to hope far beyond the limits of reason. And the same is true of our Jewish state. The resilience and limitless hope of the Israeli people gives me hope. The dedication of the soldiers of the IDF who defend the state, even while disagreeing with its leadership, give me hope. And the powerful voices of moral clarity and conviction, like Rabbi Gilad Kariv, whose entry into Reform Judaism happened right here in Memphis, Tennessee, when he served as a shliach. And of course, Rabbi Rinat Safanya, the rabbi of our sister congregation in Shoham, and so many others in our Israeli Reform movement, all of them give me hope that the dream of what the state of Israel could be is still alive and well. Yes, this is a very simplistic, some may even say crude analogy. And I know that while the Day of Atonement may have passed, I may indeed need to ask forgiveness from some for making such a comparison. But my prayer, my hope for this new year is that we do not set aside our dreams, that we remain prisoners of hope for a world that could be. My prayer for this year is that we continue to dream like the great dreamers who founded the Jewish state and these United States. May we find that hope and hold fast to it. May we continue to envision the world that can still be, and may we cling to the glimmer of hope we see in Israel today. May we dare to dream. May we dare to hope. Shabbat Shalom. Please rise.
Kolot baleva penima nefesh Yehudi omiya ufrate mizrach kadima ha'ile Sion Sophia. Say